Hello.
Hi there. How are you doing?
Good. How are you doing?
Good, thank you. Good.
Um, I co-chair the PCD. My name is Bill Hare. I'm not sure I recognize you. Thanks for joining.
My name's James Shaw. I'm the owner of 41st and West, the old brewery tap building, which I believe is on the discussion items tonight.
Oh, okay. That Brody's going to be talking about.
That's right. That's right.
Oh, fantastic. Glad to hear it.
Yeah. Yeah. How many people are you expecting to join tonight?
We never know. I mean, it could be 10, it could be 40. It is, especially during the ages of Zoom. It's just we just never know.
I know I've been on 3 meetings lately. One was on Microsoft, one was on Google, and this one's on Zoom. It's a whole new world.
Yeah, it's going to be nice to get back to meeting with people in person.
Wouldn't that be a good thing? Wouldn't that be a good thing?
Do you live here in the city?
Yeah, we lived in Boulder, but we sold that house. Um, we've still got a condo there, but we've been looking for a new house. Um, but at the moment, I'm in Europe visiting family.
Oh,
So,
so it's
um,
late.
yeah, it's about 2:30 a.m. So I'm not that sharp. So if I make some mistakes, you'll have to forgive me.
Well, that's what you have Brody for, I guess.
Yeah, it is. It is. And the architect Kurt and Julie, I think, is coming along. I think, well, not coming along. They're going to join the meeting.
Hmm.
Um,
Great.
yeah.
Well, I'm envious. I love going to Europe, but it's been at least 5 years since I've been there, probably a little longer than that.
Oh, where were you last time?
Let's see. Last time we went to Europe, we were in combination of Germany and France.
Oh, that's nice. Yeah.
Doesn't really matter whether it's UK or on the continent.
Yeah.
Enjoy enjoy traveling there anytime.
Yeah. Well, we've just come through. We were in Greece, then we came through Slovenia, and we're now in Austria. Um, Slovenia was a real revelation. Really nice place. Really liked it.
Actually, my director of operations at the company that I own is from Slovenia, and
Mm.
um, I plan on going there and using all of his contacts, and it sounds wonderful. I'm looking forward to it.
Well, we were doing a bit of cycling, and it's the best cycle paths, the most considerate drivers, and just had a great time.
Hmm.
Just it's like a very a slightly cheaper, more considerate place than Austria, I would say. It's very similar scenery. Um, Buildings are beautiful. It's not like it's just a really nice place. I was very pleasantly surprised.
Well, I will tell I'll tell Miro you said so. He'll be
Yeah, yeah.
he's always very proud of anything Slovenian.
Oh, the cycling infrastructure was a revelation. I mean, a revelation. I mean, far better than anything I've seen in the States, in France. I mean, probably second to Germany or somewhere like that. I mean, really good,
Hmm.
really good.
Interesting.
The railway stations and the public transport, in terms of, jumping on a bus and maybe missing part, like if it was a bad day's weather or it was a bad day that we didn't want to do. The buses were really good. The trains were really good and really cheap. It was a revelation. I would definitely go back. Definitely recommend it.
All right, I've got it on the list.
That's good. That's good. And very nice people as well.
Cool. Hey Frank, how are you?
Hi, Bill. Thanks for sending me the agenda and the invite. Appreciate it. I'm well. How are you?
I'm good. I'm getting worried that we're going to have light attendance. I was just talking to James about the fact that we never know how many people are going to show up. We can get 10 one week and 40 the next. And I think as the good weather's hitting, I think there's a greater chance that unless there's something hot on the agenda, but we'll see. Never
Yeah.
know.
Hot is outside right now. It's
Yes.
really hot.
Yeah, I'm not sure why. I'm not sure why or how it's going to go back down into the 80s tomorrow for one day, and then it jumps back up.
I'll take it, Bill.
Yes, but I won't have a chance to go out and enjoy it. I wish I could.
Yeah,
I wish the 84-degree high was on Saturday.
that'd be great. Yeah.
Hey, James, Tripty.
Hi, guys.
Hey, good evening.
Well, so far we're light on attendance.
Summer days. You
Mhm.
never know.
Well, summer days and summer days right after a pandemic where everybody's wants to be outside enjoying themselves.
Yeah, that is true as well.
Well, since we're so light, I think we'll give it a couple more minutes.
Hey, Bill.
Yes.
How are you?
Hey, Brody, how are you?
Doing well. Good to see you.
Good to see you as
I'm
well.
jumping in twice here because I've got you on my phone because I wasn't sure if it was going to work on the computer, but I think it's actually working. Hold on.
Well, that's okay. Our head count's so low that it's good to have more people.
Oh, there we go. Okay. Let's go here.
And 9 people so far, and it's 6:32, so we'll give it a couple more minutes.
That might be good for us.
I'm not quite. I thought you wanted to get input.
We do want that too, but we got some of that through the neighborhood.
Well, that's the most important input to get.
Yeah, we did a lot of door knocking over the past several months. Well, kind of warm weather months.
How'd that go during a pandemic?
That was weird, but we did our best. We brought sanitizer for pens and wore masks and gloves and had extra PPE. And every time somebody touched a pen, we'd wipe it first and hand it off with the wipe. Do what we can. Kept our distance. It's definitely hard to get things done right now. Well, it's getting easier now, but it was. Hey, Trupty.
Hey, how are you?
Doing well. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you as well.
Oh, there's James. Everyone's here. Okay. Lots of James. 2 James. And I don't know Frank.
Frank is from the Denver Park Trust.
Oh, cool. Hey, Frank.
Pleased to meet you, Brody.
You as well.
Brody actually lives in the neighborhood too. You still live in the neighborhood, Brody?
I am. Yeah, I'm right across the alley from the lot that we're going to talk about in a little bit, between 40th and 41st on Tejon.
Right.
Well, I hate to give it much more than another minute, but we'll cross our fingers we get a few more.
And I'll just state that Brian, what you see as Jack and Kurt are part of Davis Partnerships, the architects that have been helping us try to figure out a good plan for the lot.
Yes, and I had a nice chat earlier with James' iPhone.
Oh, you did?
Yes, he let me know it's 2:30 in the morning where he is.
Yes, he's being a champ on a very long bike ride.
Yes, it's been a long day.
How many miles have you gotten now?
We did I've forgotten how many miles in total. but we
Over
did about
1,000?
Oh yeah, easy. Yeah, and it's on small folding bikes, so it's never easy.
Yeah.
No, that wouldn't be. Ew.
just to make it more tricky.
Where are you at? You're in Scotland or something?
No, I'm currently in Austria. We came via Italy, Greece, and Slovenia.
Cool.
Croatia. Didn't you miss Croatia? Weren't you there too?
We went in Croatia just for a couple of days, but
Oh, okay.
the infrastructure wasn't great and the traffic was pretty aggressive. So we left there and came back via Slovenia, which was great, really good, highly recommended.
Wow.
And then we're back in Austria. I'm in Austria at the moment.
I'm jealous.
Yeah, it's really, the weather's perfect. The weather's
bet.
perfect. Yeah, it's about, high 70s, just a little bit overcast, then sunny. It's great.
Cool.
So,
No complaints.
so it doesn't look like we're going to get a whole lot more people. And just so that Frank, you and Brody know, I mean, really what you're getting is myself and James and Tripti on the board of SUNY. And then most of the rest of the people, oh good, we do have a couple more. Most of the rest of the people are affiliated with either with one of you two. And then we have Naomi from the council's office. So if you're both okay with it, we'll go forward with the meeting and cover your topics. I just apologize for the fact that we've got such a low turnout.
That's okay. What is your opinion here, Bill? Do you think that we should continue with the meeting as we are? Do you think it's going to get better or worse throughout the summer? We'd love to, get your insight and hopefully garner support today. Are you able to do that?
I don't. Yeah, I mean, I don't think that with the turnout we have today, it's a very small group to be taking a vote and trying to represent, the committee,
the community and the committee, right? So what do you say? Like, I'm happy.
Your choice is to go ahead and present today, and then we'll certainly give you all our input and our thoughts, and then we'll certainly put you on the next agenda as well if you like, and hopefully we'll get a better turnout and we can take a vote at that point.
Is there a possibility if after the end of today you hear what we discuss and you support it from whatever level you can, that you would be able to write us a letter, or that you would need more neighbors involved in order for you all to be able to write a letter for support?
Is there timing that you're specifically concerned with? Is there a deadline that you're
I
trying
mean,
to hit?
there's no deadline, but I mean, we've dragged this out a few years now. We'd like to do something.
So I've got a suggestion maybe, because we do end up, it's a luck, of the day, what we get here. But did you have a presentation that you were going to share with us?
We do. Kurt's got that available. But I don't think we're first. I don't want to cut into anybody's time.
That's fine. I think we have a lot of time on our agenda, but I mean, you asked a question and I think it's an important one, especially because you're going to be waiting. But, we have like 100 people on the PCD distribution list. And at least one of the last times where something came up and we needed to share or ask before there was going to be a meeting and the deadline was already before, the meeting, we shared with that 100 group of people and we got 16 responses. I guess my question is, and maybe also to Bill and James, in the future, is it possible to have more to share ahead of this meeting? Maybe it also, garners some interest as people see what it is that the conversation is going to be about, to maybe get more people to the call, as well as folks who may not be able to join, provide some input or have some, Q&A going. I'm just trying to think about how to get more support, because frankly, as an organization, the three of us, I don't think it matters what we think. That is so not representative.
That's the question that I'm asking.
It wouldn't serve
and Brody, what I would suggest, Brody, is that that we go ahead, if you're comfortable with it, and send out your materials before the next meeting, with the hope that does. Well, not only is it a hope that it brings more people to the meeting, but the other thing that it does is at least people had more details ahead of time, and they can decide whether they want their input or not. They want to have their input contributed or not. So then really the only question is, do you want to go through kind of a preliminary presentation today, or
we can
just wait until next month?
Actually, Jonathan,
I think we should just do something quick. Oh, I'm sorry.
Jonathan just put something in chat and I think it's valuable, and thank you, Jonathan.
Let's see.
He was just saying, since this is going to be, recorded, shouldn't we go through the entire presentation and then send it out, the recording via the PCD channels or, everywhere throughout the community, and get additional input that way, where they get to see your full presentation, even without, and they may have some more questions, but at least they'll get the benefit of seeing all of what it is that you guys are trying to do. And then they may actually have better, more valuable.
That'd be great. So
Okay.
we can present today. Then if there are more questions that come up, we can present again and answer those questions next month.
Correct.
Okay, great.
Okay.
And then,
So,
yep.
so with that, Frank, are you
can I say something real quick, Bill?
Sure.
Can I jump in?
Please.
I mean, all these PCD meetings, of course, we can't force anyone to present, but we don't really pick and choose whether we proceed based on the turnout. We have vehicles to share meetings. I think we proceed with the agenda unless Brody specifically didn't want to. I think we proceed with the agenda. And, we never say, oh, maybe because we only have this many people, we shouldn't present. We normally proceed with the agenda as designed. I think we should continue to do that.
I agree. I was merely giving Frank and Brody the option of, why don't we go forward? So Frank, are you up for presenting?
Yeah,
We may not be a big audience, but we'll be a good audience.
Yeah, I'll just do a quick intro, guys. And sorry, Frank, there aren't more
No,
people.
it's all good.
To get you in front of more people. And
it's all good.
Come to our happy hours and our barbecue, and I'll put you in front of more people. So with that, so I was contacted by Frank last week, and he initiated contact based on him being contacted by Jimmy Nigg, who wanted to do a park cleanup fundraiser, some event for Chaffee Park. And if you know Jimmy's history, he has done something like this before by putting, raising funds to build a swing set. So this was Jimmy wanting to do more. And so he contacted Frank, and I don't know how he found you, Frank, but Frank contacted me last week because he wants to make sure the RNO is aware of this project and also get our support. And he and I Zoomed last week, and I think there are a lot of synergies, and I think Frank could be a great resource for us and other RNOs because of his unique position with his nonprofit and its alignment with Denver Parks and Rec. So there's a project in place for a cleanup coming up at the end of this month. But I also wanted to have Frank talk a little bit about his organization, his mission, projects that they've done, and then maybe wrap up with kind of more broadly how we see a partnership that is a little broader for the future and long term. So with that, I'll turn it over to Frank. Thank you, Frank, for being here today.
Oh, thanks everybody for being here. And I will go quick, but I'm happy to answer any questions, and you can interrupt me at any time if I'm not clear on something. But I am the co-founder and executive director of the Denver Park Trust. We're a relatively new organization, started in July 2019 by myself and Denver City Councilwoman Kendra Black. And our mission, we're a nonprofit fundraising partner of Denver Parks and Rec. And our mission is to grow Denver's park system and improve it. And the areas of town that we focus on are those that have been historically underserved when it comes to parks. Parks like schools, like transportation options, like grocery stores are inequitably distributed across our city. And so Denver Parks and Recreation, our nonprofit partner, we're a nonprofit partner of, they had worked with Jimmy a couple of years ago on the toddler swings at Chaffee Park. And they got a call from Jimmy if they're wanting to do something more. And they asked us as a nonprofit if we would meet with him. That Parks and Rec does a lot of things really well, but interacting with communities is something that they're not real strong on. And sometimes people will call and want something and they won't get their calls answered. A nonprofit like ours can serve as kind of a go-between there. And when I talk about fundraising, we've recently completed our very first project. In the Cole neighborhood, there's a small 1.2 acre park called St. Charles Place Park, historically in a working class neighborhood. And the park hadn't been upgraded in nearly 3 decades. in 2018, long before we started, the community had come together and generated some interest in getting their park reimagined. And 7 youth, they call themselves the 5 Point Youth Ambassadors, led that project. Phase 1 was completed. Everybody was on board. Phase 2 came up, which is the installation of a natural playground. And Denver Parks and Recreation needed $750,000. They were short 150. Our organization had started 3 months earlier, and we worked over the next 9 months to raise that $150,000, primarily from philanthropic organizations like the Colorado Health Foundation and the VF Foundation. So that's a work that we do on a capital project. But we also like to do work with neighborhood organizations to kind of increase the stewardship in parks. Everyone on this call loves Chaffee Park, and I've been there, I don't know, 6 times now, and I love it too. And Jimmy wants to do something. So our role is really to kind of organize it a little bit. And what we're talking about doing is a park cleanup day on June 26th from 3 to 5 p.m. We've got, like to get 50 volunteers. And what a park cleanup looks like is Denver Parks and Recreation, through our coordination, will bring in some mulch. We can mulch the trees. We can pick up the trash. I had mentioned in a meeting the other day that some of the picnic, like the picnic tables, they're green and they're marked up and chipped and things. So we'll paint those. And when I say we, I'm talking about everybody. And so what we've done is and then after that park cleanup, Jimmy would welcome anyone to come to the Monkey Barrel, and he'll have selected menu items, and half the proceeds will go back into Chaffee Park. So we have the ability to create the web landing page. Trupti's suggestion, we're going to put up some yard signs to kind of engage the community to sign up. We've already got 6 people who have volunteered, and we just started promoting it the other day. Talked to Councilwoman Sandoval's office, and she's excited to promote it through her channels and is planning on coming. And so, we're kind of excited to partner with with the RNO and just really make it kind of a starting point. Trupti had talked about what else we can do. We can leverage maybe some of our contacts at Denver Parks and Recreation. So when the SUNY group is looking at some of the neighborhood planning that you're doing and how Parks and Rec can work in that, I'd love to be sitting alongside the table with you guys saying, hey, this is what other parts of town are doing. These are the people we need to talk to at Denver Parks and Rec, and just kind of be maybe a longer term partner beyond this cleanup day, but that's kind of where we'd love to start. So that's my short and brief presentation. We do have I'll finish by saying that we have a board. We're a small organization. It's myself and Katie Crowley, who does our communications. And then we have a board of 11 members from different, all different parts of the city. Currently don't have one in Northwest, but we have a Jaime Aguilar in Villa Park and Christina Contreras, who works in Westwood, but just lives over the border in Edgewood. So with that, I'll entertain any questions. Oh, I think you're on mute, Trupti.
If people have questions, remember to unmute yourself.
I wanted to, there was a question in chat, and Frank, I don't know the answer, but Lindsay, who's on the call, asked, is there a way to donate to a specific project? They're out of town that day, but would love to support. So, this kind of is a good segue into the fact that you guys have a method and a mechanism to collect the money, hold on to the money, and not have it go to Parks and Rec until Parks and Rec actually does the whatever work and project, and then you would write the check. But I don't know, I mean, is that possible to do work, donate to support a particular project?
It is, and on our website, denverparktrust.org, and I'll put that in the chat.
I already put it into chat.
Oh, you put it in the chat. So on the donate page, there's a donate tab on the top right. We may have our Chaffee Park pull down on there to designate it, but we also have a memo line there. And if you put Chaffee Park in there, I've already got a separate account set up because Jimmy's the proceeds from Jimmy's fundraiser, we're already going to put into the Chaffee Park account. So Lindsay, we have that set up. And if you have any challenges, I think it should be pretty straightforward on our donate page. If Katie hasn't created the pull down menu, then you can just put it in the memo line, and you'll get a confirmation from the donate page, and then you'll get a handwritten thank you note from me. So.
Awesome, found it, thank you.
So I think an important and kind of that longer term relationship with this organization, especially in their unique position. And, you know, a lot of people don't really know how to get through to Parks and Rec or how it works. How does a project get prioritized? These are all things that we really don't know, but, you know, a resource such as Frank can help us understand that for planning phase, but also as we're working through a project and maybe really through the community, find out what the needs and desires are of our parks and our park system. Through that, we can actually come up with larger projects, and then we can work on things like funding and fundraising for those projects. We're not there yet, but through that planning process, Parks and Rec is going to be a focus area. And I think it'll be important for the community to know how Parks and Rec functions, and, you know, how do we get on their list for their capital improvement. From talking to Frank, it seems that the more community organizes around its Parks and Rec system, you know, and puts in effort, that's how we get on the prioritization list. And this project is really the first one of kind of going towards that. But we've talked about much larger projects, so it's not like cleanup is the only thing. Like he was mentioning, you know, maybe a band shell, a shade, you know, whatever, get the bathrooms to work, put in a porta potty. There's so many things that need to be done, but we really as a community haven't focused on Parks and Rec. And once we do, we may come to real projects that we want to pursue and funding. And Frank, if you'd like to talk about the one that you and I've talked about, that you and Amanda have talked about, something that most people don't think about, you know, as something that our community should be thinking about. Please describe the ADA compliance.
Yeah, there's many things that amenities and things that the community could envision for Chaffee Park. And one of the things that I can do is kind of give some examples of what other parks have done or what other communities have led. But one idea that kind of has got me going is the idea of a wheelchair accessible swing. So veterans from the war or kids who grow up wheelchair bound, when they go to parks, they sit and they watch. And we all know that's not the way it should be. Parks should be accessible and inclusive for all. So a wheelchair swing, there's only one in the entire state of Colorado, and it's located in Aurora. There's plans to put another one in on Aurora Park. Denver has on their list to add one to City Park, but City Park's a long way from Sunnyside. City Park's a long way from Westwood. And so one of the ideas that I'm kind of working with is can we make our parks more accessible and maybe have some different areas where these amenities like a wheelchair swing, it's got to start someplace. And so I kind of throw that out as sort of something to consider. I like it, but I don't live in Sunnyside. I don't get to go to Chaffee all the time, but that's something that we can all work together and come up with lists of band shells and, you know, and more picnic benches and things like that. And then kind of work long-term, as Trupi has said, with Parks and Rec to show some stewardship of the park. We all went there in the pandemic. Everybody went to parks. They were the only place we could go. And now we've got, if we take care of them and we show some commitment. And when I say we'd love to work with you guys on that. We're working with folks in Cole. We've got some partnerships going out in Montbello. That's what we do. So hope that answered that question. Yeah.
So Frank, this is Bill. I know there are a number of people, most likely a lot of people that are this is a very important topic to them. Have you seen any RNOs that have done a particularly good job at organizing and moving forward strategically, looking for new green space, you know, determining what's needed in the neighborhood, and and if so, how has your organization worked with them? And would that be a good prototype on how we could move forward more closely with you?
Yeah, the neighborhoods that I've seen do it best are neighborhoods like around Washington Park, but we don't work with those neighborhoods, Bill. They're fine. They're good. They're good. They're good to go. They don't need me. They've got social capital. They know who to call. They got money. That's not what we do. But the model that they use of being informed and making connections and advocating is something that we can work on, and that's what we're not, it's not like we're magic at it, but we just kind of seen it happen, and we just kind of feel like everybody should get a shot at that. Denver Parks and Rec has a large focus on equity, and on their equity map, Sunnyside is defined as one that is under-resourced when it comes to parks.
Correct.
So they know that. You guys know that. I know that. So the whole idea, Bill, is how do we put that together? But should we take the ideas from the Wash Park people? You betcha.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we're best to get a group of people that are interested in this, get back in contact with you, and bring that group together and talk about how best to move forward.
Yeah.
So Bill, I think that's kind of like the smaller projects with the people. I mean, that's kind of where these conversations will start. Like, this is the bigger picture. This is what we're trying to do. Sign up if this is an area of interest, if parks is a area that you want to work on for neighborhood planning, but also this. So me inviting Frank here is exactly for that purpose. It's for the purpose of initiating this type of thing so we can move towards actual, improvements rather than, spin our wheels. So I think that's exactly where we're trying.
I understand that, Tripti. Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Anybody else have questions or comments for Frank?
I have a question. I don't know if Frank's going to know the answer. So there is a sidewalk on one side of the street. Or is it one of those projects we need to look at?
I'm sorry, you're going to have to try to repeat that.
Oh, sorry. So there's a sidewalk on one part of the, my internet sucks. There's a sidewalk on one side of the park, the whole park. Is there a reason for that? Or is it one of those projects we need to look into?
Yeah, I think that is a project we looked into. I walked around the park, and it's not like I'm a park expert, but I noticed that the street on the east side is relatively narrow. 2 cars can go by, and people probably park on the park side on weekends and such. There's those beautiful trees that are on the perimeter of Chaffee Park, and so an engineer who's not a park person would probably look at that, Lindsay, and say, well, there's no place to put a sidewalk. But no is not really a good answer, because we've got there should be a way to figure something out. Is it is it on the inside of the trees? Can you take some of the street away? I don't know, but those are the kind of things that we'd like to get a park planner to stand there and tell us what's possible, not what we can't do, but what's possible. So, but that's a really good suggestion, because I noticed that when I walked around.
And Lindsay, I think this is important during the neighborhood planning initiative when it comes to the park side to talk about these types of things exactly, which is what's missing, what are our parks, what's lacking in our parks. So I thank you. And on this particular item, I don't know if folks know this, but when Jimmy's business first moved here, him and Modus, which is another business right next to them, they were both interested in a park improvement. And I believe that sidewalk was one of them. And I believe they wrote a check for $10,000 to do exactly what Frank's talking about, which is show a level of commitment to get onto the radar and to elevate a project. But that's just gone. We got nothing for it. And I think with Frank's organization, there will be more accountability of that money, and that money just won't be gone if we even have fundraising that results in something like that kind of money. So I think that's why it's important for us to kind of work on these things together.
I think there's somebody on a phone who's trying to make a comment. Hello? Okay. Anybody else with questions or comments? We can run a little bit over, given the fact
I
we got a
love-
late start.
I love the idea of the ADA swing, Frank. That's really great. And I think that would be great for Chaffee Park. Really nice. And
Thanks.
Trupty, where did that $10,000 go?
We don't know.
Okay.
That's exactly, I mean, that's why when I talked to Frank and he was talking about all the kinds of things that they can do in supporting this, it was like, light bulb, like, wait a minute, I did put for the June 26th Saturday cleanup event, I did put the link to the sign up. It's, under projects if you go to their homepage, but both of those are in there. Please sign up and please join us.
Yeah.
I'm ready to get involved. Love it.
Thank you, Brody.
Thanks, Brody.
Frank,
Thank you.
quick question. You might have answered this. Were there garbage cans pulled from Denver parks during the pandemic for some reason? The number at Chaffee has decreased. And maybe it was just coincidence that it coincided with COVID. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I don't know, James, exactly where we were as far as number of cans, but I do know that Denver Parks and Rec in the COVID environment, they have what they call on-call personnel, people that they staff things like trash with. And in the COVID environment, they lost a lot of those people. In fact, there's an article in the Denver Post a week and a half ago or so about how parks have more litter in them now. And it's really because the Parks Department hasn't been able to get those people back on their workforce. It's the same problem that restaurants and breweries and such are having right now, is they're staffing the human supply chain in a lot of areas is not broken. It's just not back to where it was before. And so you're seeing, whether they took the cans out or not, I don't know. But what I do know is that parks like Chaffee and others are not getting the same level of service that they were pre-pandemic because of staffing. We recently, when I talked about partnership in Montbello, we worked to kind of help some a neighborhood group, R&O, sort of recruit volunteers to maybe help a little bit on one of the off days that Parks and Rec used to clean up Barney Ford Park. And so we were able to get Parks and Rec to bring out the little trash picker-uppers. And so these people are working to kind of steward their park a little bit. So it's a problem. It really is. I can look into it for Chaffee if you want me to. I can ask where their level of service is and let
Yeah,
Bill and
I think
Truppi
know. I think it's time we move up to the 21st century and get compost, recycle, landfill as well. When they do replace those cans, it would be fantastic if we could do that.
It's a great suggestion.
Rather than the steel barrels that are sitting there now?
Rather than the steel barrels that have holes in the bottom and attract squirrels and overflow. It could be something that, I know that's a bigger deal though, because then the city would have to collect those three separately, but nonetheless, it'd be nice progress.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if some other cities that we think we want to be like already do that, James. So it's a good suggestion.
I expect so, yeah. Thank you.
We can take a couple more minutes. Any other comments? Okay. Frank, I am so glad that you and Trupti got to made a connection and that you were able to join us. As I said before, I know that there are a lot of people for which this is a very important issue. So I can assure you that we will be back in touch.
Yeah, well, if Truppi keeps working on this, she's going to be hired by the Denver Park Trust because she's got good vision. And I'm going to keep her. So, but thank you very much, everybody, for your time. And I hope the rest of the evening and the meeting goes great. And I look forward to seeing everybody on the 26th.
Thank you, Frank.
Thanks, Frank.
Bye now.
Thanks, Frank.
Well, Brody, thank you for your patience and thank you to your team for your patience. I know I am eager to hear what your plans are, because it has been a couple of years since we've first had you be part of the meeting and talk about this property. And very impressed that the James iPhone is staying up to 2:30 in the morning. It's actually more like 3 o'clock now in
Yeah.
Europe. So
He's a
take
trooper.
it away. We're eager to hear.
Okay, great. Thank you very much, Bill. And I'll just start off. My name is Brody Stinson. I've lived in the neighborhood for over 10 years now, in 3 different homes throughout those years. And I've been at 40th and Tejon, or between 40th and 41st on Tejon since 2014. And that's really when I discovered the lot at 1930 West 41st, which some of you may remember was the Centennial Tap service, if you've been around the neighborhood for long enough. That property became interesting to me. One, actually, really just because there was a, I don't know, 1,000, 2,000 gallon CO2 tank that they stored in the back of the lot that hissed all night long, and I could hear it from the other side of the house through multiple walls, and it just bugged the neighbors and myself all day long. We felt like it was a little bit unsafe to have that around all these homes, this massive tank. And that's when I started to really focus on this neighborhood. And then I got to know the people who previously owned it a little bit, and found out that over time that they had some interest in selling. And so I looked into it, saw that the zoning was a PUD with some pretty specific instructions on what was allowed there. And after I looked at that, I realized that the PUD just didn't really fit in with the neighborhood anymore. It was something that was created back in the 80s when the neighborhood was a much different place. And I don't know what that corner looked like back in the 80s. I was a young boy back then, but I know that there's been a whole lot of changes and a whole lot of growth and development since then. I met with the city councilman of the time back at the end of 2017, Councilman Espinoza, and asked him about that lot. And he said that it had been discussed multiple times over the years and had been presented with SUNI several times with different developers who tried to approach purchasing that lot and doing something else besides what's there with the warehouse. It didn't work out for whatever reason with those developers in the past. Maybe they didn't have the right vision, or they just couldn't connect with SUNY's and City Council's plan or vision of what should go in that space. After speaking with Espinoza, Councilman Espinoza, he said that he at the time, and the city, as far as he knew, or the neighborhood as far as he knew, really wanted to see, would allow some density, wanted to see more of a mixed use component there. We went to the owners and James and I and worked out a deal to purchase a lot from them, let them occupy it for a period of time after we purchased a lot while we worked out a little bit of a plan. That time expired. We got together with Davis Partnership, and you'll see Kurt, Julie, and Brian here, who are all from Davis Partnerships. They're an architect in downtown Denver in the Rhino area, and talked about some of the vision. I really wanted to create a space there since I live in the neighborhood and I've been there for some time. It's my favorite neighborhood in Denver, and I don't see myself going anywhere besides maybe transferring homes here and there around the neighborhood, maybe expanding or reducing my size as I grow. But really felt that little piece was very important for the neighborhood, being so close to the main street of 41st and Tejon, and that we wanted to create some sort of density, but also make it integrate into the community and make it feel, Sunnyside is such a tight-knit community. I walk around every single day with my dog. I know most of the neighbors. I know all the business owners on Tejon, and having that community there, I really felt like taking this lot and creating that community within that lot was also important. And it's a funky lot because it's bordered by alley on either side. And it's got 98 foot of frontage on 41st, while with 100, almost 200 foot of length. So it's a funky lot. On one side, you have a row of businesses where you have dumpsters and food waste and all the other things that come along with those food businesses that are along that side. And then on the east side of the lot, you have 5 lots that back to the side of this lot. So right now there's the PUD that allows for office, doctors, dentists, and I think it could be a warehouse with 10% retail in that space. It's a 4,350 square foot cinder block box building, and it's just not fitting in with the neighborhood. And we felt that on the east side we could create, on both sides we could create a kind of a row home type scenario, but maybe with a courtyard in between, so that there can also be the green space, but also have each alley side have garages that feed in on those sides, so that the people that would live in the 1930 West 41st community don't have to, like currently if it was a TU, your side yard, you'd have dumpsters running all along your side yard on either side, or on the one side, and then on the other side you'd have 5 garages running down your side yard, which also doesn't seem right. So we felt like creating more density on this lot would make it flow and fit within the context of the community much better, and allow for the space to work in a way that not only brings more affordability to the community, but also makes it so that it flows within the neighborhood better, and creates a more safe, inviting environment. We ran into a few bumps along the way. So we started with Espinoza, with Councilman Espinoza, and he really wanted to see this mixed use where there would be maybe a storefront on the front or some kind of a mixed use option. It seems now, and time has passed, quite a bit of time has passed, and it seems like the neighborhood, and from what I'm hearing, Blueprint Denver have kind of changed what their expectations are for the neighborhood, and want to get away from this mixed use with a storefront in most parts of the neighborhood. At least that's what we were hearing when we met with the city recently. And Julie and Kurt, who met with the city manager, can speak on that a little bit more. Julie, do you want to step in on that?
Yeah. As Brody said, this initially started as looking at this CX mixed use zone district, and Blueprint Denver was the old version. They had their concept meeting with the city, and there was no suggestion that that wouldn't be approved. City councilman was on board, neighborhoods were, the surrounding neighbors were on board with it. It wasn't so much that we were planning on doing a mixed use. It helped with the density. It helped with maybe doing like a live work scenario was the vision. Since all these changes and this is kind of drawn out because of the pandemic and whatnot, now there's a new Blueprint Denver, now there's a new city council. The 41st Street is no longer an arterial street where they want to see mixed use. So we have gotten through the process. We've submitted our first zoning document, and then we've gotten the first kind of pushback. Well, because we're not on a busy street, we're not allowed to have the MX zone. So we've kind of gotten into so far down the lane with a certain vision, which doesn't necessarily match the CMX. So we're trying to find a compromise with the city, and now make sure that we're still on board with the vision of the neighborhood.
And thank you, Julie. With that, we're trying to, well, we pretty much added that mixed use component. Well, one, I thought that was a great idea, and I thought it would be a great way to like kind of blend the commercial part of Tejon into the rest of the neighborhood that is zone TU. We felt that would be a nice transition, having something that was a live work and not full retail or full business and full residential. But and that was what was kind of pushed, or at least imposed upon us a little bit when we met for 3.5-4 years ago. now they're stating, I guess, that's not something that they want to see. And so the pushback we got was just that one component. And now we're trying to find a way to allow for density to happen over there. A TU just doesn't make sense over there. With a TU, you'd have what, 4 townhouses with 2 of them could have an ADU. And the current state of the market shows, you know, prices are really high for that type of thing, especially with the type of square footage that they would allow for, that we would need to be able to make this make sense from an investment perspective. So that doesn't really make sense for the neighborhood. It doesn't make sense for that lot. And it does the opposite of what I think we're trying to do for all of us, is hopefully make more affordable housing for everybody. So we're trying to figure out a way to do it, allow the density to be increased, but also comply with the vision of the neighborhood and make the space beautiful. I mean, it's such a horrible lot the way it is right now. And I feel like it's an important lot for the neighborhood, and we really need to do something, hopefully, as a community, that can make that area more inviting and make people love it and not hate it, like the 41st SUNI project.
Could I just chirp in there? I can't really speak to the zoning. That's more Kurt, and particularly Brody, know more about the zoning, the technicalities, than I do. What I would say is, when we bought the plot, my wife and I, the strategy has always been, would we be happy to live there? Yeah, don't buy, don't invest unless you're happy to live there. So that was the primary design element that we give to Kurt and his team. It had to be a development that we would be happy to live in. And in fact, we had considered trying to, when we developed it, actually keeping one of the units for ourselves. Kurt came up with a design whereby there was a center courtyard which would be used by all the properties. So your garage access was from the lanes, as Brody's discussed, but there was going to be an open center courtyard for all the properties. And I really like that, because I think, you know, it's very difficult to create a sense of community in new buildings. But that really did it. I had this feeling that, you know, people would be able to come outside, sit outside, see the neighbors. People would know who the neighbors were and could keep an eye on them. And I like that element. And as Brody said, if you start going for maybe 4 townhouses, quite simply, the economics don't work. It doesn't work for the neighborhood. They'll be ridiculously expensive. So we did try to go for density, but at the same time, create a sense of community that I really liked. And so that was my input. If anybody's got any questions for me, I'm quite happy to take them. But I think obviously Kurt could probably speak to the design element far better than I can in regards to the zoning. Thank you.
And I'll step in there just for a moment before we get on to Kurt. But and we understand that the UMX2X doesn't necessarily allow for this courtyard design. There's certain things that are allowed within a UMX2X, and the courtyard design isn't necessarily one of them. We do understand and would want to have street frontage for whatever units would be facing the street. But we also want to try to find something that does work, that also makes it feel more like a community rather than just the row slot home that's all concrete. We want to create green space, and we want to make it feel like a home and not just a concrete box. And we run into a few issues there with this UMX2X, even the way it is, and we're trying to get that. We understand that there might be certain things that the neighborhood would want to see to help us stay within the context of the neighborhood. And we're just trying to find that middle ground where we can create what is wise for that space, but also have it work for everybody, or as many people as we possibly can within the community.
When do we get to see it?
Kurt, do you want to? Well, we showed you a preliminary before. We showed you kind of the original design that we had made back when we met in 2019. nothing on the drawing really has changed. The only thing really that's changed is kind of the city and what their expectation is. And we want to try to work and figure out what's going to function for everybody. And go ahead, Kurt, if you want to show it.
Sure, I'll go ahead and share my screen here. Just give me a moment.
So did the city tell you that UMX2 is no longer what they want? And you're looking to go to UMX2 anyway and would like our support?
Yep, it's actually a UMX, and thank you. Is that James, other James, who's speaking?
My name's Jonathan.
Oh, Jonathan, sorry, I can't see who's speaking. Thank you, Jonathan. It's currently a PUD, planned unit development, which was created apparently by the previous owners or their father, who it was in their family for like 50 years, and they created this for whatever reason way back when, and it kind of confined its uses. There are only 2 PUDs left in the neighborhood that I know of, and one of them is this 1930 West 41st, and the other one is that place. It's like a body shop or car auto shop on 42nd and Tejon, and they've got all the tires in the back on the, what is it, southeast corner there. Those are the only 2 PUDs. So the city's trying to get rid of those. And they have several different zonings. So on the Tejon side of this lot, all of that is UMS2. It's urban Main Street up to 2 stories. And we know that there are the slot homes there on either side. And then we've got all the businesses also. And you can see that UMS2 actually runs up 42nd a little bit, because you've also got the homes that are on the west side could actually be converted to UMS2. And then the other side, which is the, what's that city bill, or the, for the, is that they do meetings for folks, I don't know, either way, and then the doctor's office. So that PUD, there's the 2 PUDs there, and the city wants to get rid of them, and we knew that going into it, and we were like, okay, well, you want to get rid of the PUD, and the next best thing, and this was also based on previous Councilman Sandoval's, or not Sandoval, Espinoza's request that a UMX2X would be ideal. And we've got a UMX2X, if you look up to the top close to the monkey barrel, where the, what is it now, Radiator? Is that the new name of it? The coffee shop?
Yeah.
Yep, now the Radiator. So that's a UMS2X, and we're looking for UMX2X because it's not a main street, but it creates the mixed use and also the density that we wanted. Now we hear people speaking and saying they don't necessarily want the mixed use, but that's the zoning that would allow us to increase the density. Now,
I have a question there.
Yes, of course.
Who told you that? Hi, Bird. I remember I met with you back in, I think it was November 2019.
A few times. Yeah.
Times. So who was saying that they don't want mixed use?
Right.
Kurt and Julie, can you comment on that?
It came up during the review of the zoning submittal, the official review of the zoning submittal, not during the concept meetings. We've had 2 concept meetings with them. The new blueprint Denver specifically has the MX zones on arterial streets, and 41st is not considered that. It's therefore, it doesn't meet the blueprint Denver, but it also doesn't meet your neighborhood plan. Your neighborhood plan has a statement in it that it's on one of these slides, if Kurt can find it, but there's a statement that you have enough mixed use in your community and you are not looking to increase the mixed use. Okay. So there's 2.
Yeah.
To stop you there. So I remember back in 2019 when we met, you had met with Edson Ibanez, I think was the planner, and gone through a pre-application to talk about the new blueprint Denver had passed at that time. It passed in April 2019. So I believe that he reviewed it under the new blueprint Denver. And I know that the maps there, it does show it as being residential, but I'm just having a hard time remembering. Have you met recently with the planning department? Have you done a new pre-application? You probably would have had to do a new pre-application.
We did.
Yep.
And have you reached out to Councilwoman to set up a meeting to talk about it? If things have changed?
At this point, they have submitted the formal application, so they can no longer have that communication with the councilwoman.
Well,
At the second pre-app meeting, it still didn't come up as an issue of being an MX. So
yeah, that's why I'm confused about what changed, because Blueprint Denver hasn't changed since.
And
November.
we're still trying to go for the MX. And so they cited the two. They cited Blueprint Denver with the street designation as being a problem. And I've never worked with this planner before, so I don't know if he's new to the city and is reading it very strictly by the book. But he cited your neighborhood plan. So that's why we're here. We don't want to not continue to pursue the MX because we also believe it's the right zone, and we've been talking with everyone about it for 2+ years.
So one other point of clarification, if I can interrupt, is it just the city? Brody had a couple times had referred to it as if the neighborhood was against the MX, and I was confused by that. Is it in fact just the city?
That's a good question that I don't actually know the clear answer to, and maybe I just misspoke when I was stating that. And Julie, is it?
It's the neighborhood. It's the neighborhood plan.
The plan. Okay.
The plan.
Which Troopy's already put in the chat. I think given that it's 1992,
yes,
all of us would agree, especially since we're about to embark on a new one, that document really shouldn't hold a lot of weight, even though I realize within the formal processes within the city planning development the city planning department, they tend to grab a piece of information like that and hold on to it like a dog with a bone.
And so ultimately, that's why we're here. We're here looking at the date of the plan and the information we've gotten over the last couple of years. It doesn't seem right that's a potential holdup. So we're here to see if you guys still support the pursuit of the MX2X. And if so, could we get a letter of recommendation and a letter stating that, this is an outdated document and we don't want to hold this particular site to that regulation, that piece, because he's only citing these two pieces as the holdup.
Naomi, any thoughts as to, regardless, because I know in past when we've talked about certain situations, regardless of neighborhood support, is the 1992 plan potentially going to be an obstacle too big for us to get past? If we decided
it's potentially an obstacle. What I'm surprised is that we've been out of the loop completely. So I don't have any more information to give you, because the last we heard about this was November 2019, and it seems now the rezoning application has been submitted. So I don't know what that latest. Again, we talked about the pre-application meeting back in November 2019. So if there's a new one, I haven't seen it. I don't know what planner you're working with, but if I have more information, I could give you a better analysis.
There are also a couple of questions in chat. Lindsay asked, how many units, what is the design size, room setup, and what parking are you providing? And maybe you already have that in further slides. And James asked, what's the difference between UMX2 and UMX2X?
Yes. Well, let's see here. I've got several answers here. Do you want to do the zoning piece, Julie, or do you want me to go through that?
You can see it on here.
Okay.
Kurt's got it, and it just the MS zone, they've absolutely said we can't use because we're not on a main street. So we're looking at the two different MX zones, and you can see on the non-highlighted piece, you have a lot more. You have a drive-through service, drive-through restaurant. We know that those kinds of things you don't want there. So therefore the 2X kind of restricts it a little bit further. And so that's why we went with that one. Plus it's just a few blocks away. There's several of that same zone. So we wanted to be consistent with the existing neighborhood.
Exactly. And then the other thing is that it was suggested when I was going through it with previous Councilman Espinoza we were talking about the best options, and we both going through the zoning code. He suggested the MX2X, and I agreed that was probably the best possible option for this particular lot. And then the other, how many units? So currently the way we have the design drawn is for 12 units. And the sizes range from, it's been a while now, Kurt, what were they, 1,700 square foot, or was it 1,500 square foot to 2,100?
And I'm sorry I don't have those numbers in front of me, but I recall about
Okay.
1,000 square foot for the smaller, and then about 16 to 1,800 for the larger.
These are
Okay.
condos.
It would be kind of like a townhouse style setup, and we were hoping for a courtyard design, but it doesn't really fall within the UMX2X. So,
and on that, Brody, we also found there's exceptions for the UMX2X on a site like this, where there's, for the overall shape of the lot, and given there's alleys on both sides, there is an exception that we can apply for.
Oh, is there? Okay.
Yeah.
That's
So
great. I didn't know that.
Yeah, we did find that in the zoning code. So.
Okay, good. Good to know. Thank you.
What
And then I
building
think-
form are you trying to use?
I'm sorry, what?
What building form? Is it the general building form? Or is it
What was,
townhouse or shop front?
Yeah, so townhouse in general, looking back to my notes from that November meeting in 2019, the general and the townhouse seemed to get support from the community, but the shop front seemed to cause the biggest pause from those that were in the meeting. So we've been looking at a couple variations, and we just put together a concept idea. And Naomi, I think you made the good point in the November meeting in 2019 that it's not so much about the design at this point, it's about what could be built. So we're considering, obviously you can do the townhouse, which is some of the building forms, quite a few variations. This UMX2X has a max height of 2.5 stories or 30 feet, which aligns with what's currently there on the Tejon side.
on Tejon, they have 35 foot, I think, as a max, I believe, for a couple of those townhomes there.
Sure.
So we're exploring the options between townhouse in general, but as you know, the big hurdles, what could be there. And
And we also understand that there's a concern both on yours, Naomi's, when you spoke previously, and then the councilwoman's position. There was just some concern that, yeah, you give us zoning and then we go sell the lot and they have this new zoning and they can do whatever the heck they want. And we're not looking for that. I live in the community. I care about what goes in there. I plan on staying within that community. It's right across the alley from me. It was a concern for me with that massive tank that was sitting there years back, and what gets built there is also concerning to me. We are open to the option or the idea of maybe creating some confinements to what happens there, you know, like maybe a brick facade or, you know, those things that maybe they really don't want to see there. We probably don't want to see them either. So we're probably willing to work with you all or whoever we need to on making it the right type of development for the community. We don't want low high. We don't want Tennyson. We want to make something that's really just gonna help create this amazing community that we already have and just enhance the neighborhood, not hurt it.
So we do have some extra time tonight. So I think we've got another, I would say 10 minutes that we could spend. Does it make sense to go through the presentation in order? The sense I get is that you're really not locked into a specific design concept, that you're still very, malleable relative to what concept or what design you want to put forward.
I would say yes, like we love this design for what it would create within the community, but yes, we are open to making changes that are necessary to allow the density that we feel is needed there, but also make it work well for everybody, or not everybody, obviously, because not everybody can ever be, 100% happy, but to work for the masses of the community.
Well, let's.
Sorry, I have one follow-up. I know you talked about the design, and if you're talking about 1,700 square feet, what are you guys thinking for parking? I know you talked about garages, but that street's already pretty full, and especially with a couple other developments going in. Just want to make sure you guys have thought about what that's going to
Yeah.
look like.
We were looking at 1 to 2 car attached per unit, depending on the size unit. And they would all be feeding, I don't know if you can see me right now because I'm not looking at myself, but they would all be feeding from the alley. So the alley on either side, you see this row of homes, each one on the front actually faces front. And yeah, so now you see alley on either side. And so each one would have a garage running down the alley. So then it kind of conforms with the other side of the alley. On the east side of the alley, it's all a bunch of garages that back to that lot. So we were hoping to do the same on the other side, have garages back to that lot. The other thing on the west side, that's all businesses. I'm sure you all know Wolf's Tailor well, and then you've got the liquor store, and then you've got the ramen place, and they've got their food dumpsters out there, and it smells funny. I have to drive down that alley every day, and I walk my dog down, and he tries to get stuff off the ground. So this is not a great space to create like a townhouse where you have one unit facing 41st, and then you have a big side yard and then a garage in the back, because in that side yard, nobody's going to want to be there because they're going to smell the food from next door all day long and hear the trucks go by. And there's delivery trucks that stop on the corner there. And, you know, there's all these, and then the trash trucks. So we are trying to create something that not only allows people to have a home, but allows people to have a home that makes sense for that particular, especially that alley. That's the most concerning alley for sure.
If the city is not excited about the mixed use component, what zoning code are they suggesting you use?
Did they all offer another? Well, the thing that we could do right away is go to TU, which would allow for 2 units. And with the current size of the lot and the width of the street frontage we have, that would allow for 2 townhomes, and the size of the lot and zoning would also allow for one of those townhomes to have an ADU. So one of the 2 of the 4 townhomes, because we're calling them townhomes, duplexes. So 2 duplexes, 4 total units, plus the ADU would make 6 total units, is what we could do today without even having a meeting here at the city or at SUNI. Okay, that's what we could do today. But that does not make any sense at all. Not only does it not help affordability for the neighborhood, but that configuration of the lot makes no sense for that type of development. It just doesn't work. So we are trying to find another option, and the UMX2X we still feel is the best option. It fits within other zoning within the neighborhood. We don't want to take some other random zoning code that's offered in some other neighborhood and then grab it and try to drop it in the Sunnyside where there is nothing else. So we're trying to take zoning that already is in Sunnyside and expand on some of it, add it to this lot.
I've got a couple of questions, I guess. And
please.
I guess first, you mentioned affordability. Just to be clear, these are all market rate homes, correct?
Currently, as it stands, yes, but we're open to a conversation. If the density was good enough, then there might be a way to add an affordable housing component. But we have to make it make sense. We have to. It has to work. The concern with the TU is that, well, one, there would definitely not be an affordable housing component, and the size of the TU units themselves, given the current state of the market and where these larger homes are selling for, what their prices are, it kind of does the opposite of helping affordability for the neighborhood. And that's really what we were stating.
Well, I think people like to throw out affordability, but I think density, you're adding density, you're not adding affordability if it's market rate. So I think just
Absolutely.
to be clear that this is adding density is not an affordability play, which is fine, And my other question is, in terms of all of the input that you received from residents, is this new input or is this from when, 2019? Remember, I think you were set up a Cherry Bean one day.
Yep,
and
we did that.
So have you gotten, that's right, you did say you went door knocking during the pandemic.
Yeah, Jim, when were you out here when we knocked around on the doors all day of all of our neighbors? Was that September we did that? Or October?
It's just a couple days after the presentation in November, I believe.
And that's fine. I just want to make sure it was current. It wasn't old.
I'm sorry, Kurt. Jim and I went like in 2020, just like a few months ago.
No, that's fair. So in terms of that feedback, and I'm sure you heard good and bad or pro or against, can you share kind of what you heard for pro and against? Because, you know, those folks aren't here. We'd like to, I mean, ideally, we'd like to hear what these folks had said. And so that would play into, you know, the decision a board would make about a letter of support. So if you can share a little bit about that, that'll be great.
Definitely. Yep. Most of the people are very supportive. There were only 2 people that were not. One person said that she would not support anything except for a dispensary, or what was the other thing? Dispensary, or what was it, Jim? Or a bar, or like a, I don't know.
I think she wanted parking for, I think, her son's auto business, or
I don't know.
Dispensary. That was,
she said if it was a dispensary, she said the only thing that she would support is a dispensary, and one other thing, definitely not housing. And then there was one other person that did not support it because, well, they said that the previous tenant that we had was annoying and didn't take good care of the lot. So he said because of that he wouldn't support anything. But that person has actually since sold their home, just went to market, and they're gone. So I bet I could go to the new people there and maybe they'd support it, but everyone else has supported it. All the people that live along Shoshone, minus one person, and that was the person who's just recently sold. He was in a half duplex, second in from this corner of 40th and Shoshone on that west side of the street, so abutting our lot. They were the only ones that on that side of the road that did not support it. Everybody else said that they definitely supported it. They would love to see anything there, and they loved the idea of residential. And when we showed them our preliminary plan, the ideas that we had, and we discussed it, everyone loved it.
I think it's important to say it's just to interrupt, Brody. I think it's important to say we didn't just knock on doors and vaguely say, "Are you interested in seeing a development there?" We actually showed them the designs that we got off Kurt. We discussed the density. We discussed what the probably market values would be. We discussed the access down the back lanes. It was a long process that we went through with everybody who wanted to ask a question. And as Brody said, apart from 2 people, it was overwhelmingly supportive. Sorry,
actually,
Brody.
there was the third guy. Remember the third guy on Tejon, actually in a new townhouse that just moved there. Actually, I know him a few months ago. He just moved from California, and he said, and he just bought a brand new townhome, just like, you know, actually not even as nice as what we were hoping to build for the community. And he was like, well, I think I'm supposed to not sign these things. I said, okay, for whatever reason, sure, sounds good. And he felt like he's not supposed to sign it for whatever reason, and he didn't sign. But everybody else that we met that showed up to the door signed and was very supportive, immensely supportive.
I'm sorry, my connection dropped. So if you covered this, I apologize. What was the total number of responses that you received, of which 2 were negative, the rest were positive?
We got out to, I have the list. Did I send you guys the list? Kurt, do you have that by chance?
Was it actually attached to your application, maybe?
It was also attached to the application, yes. I believe. Was it, Kurt?
Dig that up. It was attached to the application.
Okay, I can pull it up and find it. Thank you.
So, Brody, I just want to bring you back to, because I don't feel like I got an answer. What is the city suggesting, or have they not made a specific suggestion?
They did they make a specific suggestion, Julie?
Yeah,
you were on that call.
As of right now, they will only support the UTUC.
Okay, there you go. UTUC, which doesn't make sense at all. It just doesn't work.
Okay. Well, I think we're.
I'm sorry. I'm just gonna say. So we are also neighbors, and I would support. We're in the other townhouses on 41st and Tejon. It would be great to see anything this looks beautiful, but I mean, just thinking about, hey, this neighborhood is changing a lot. Like thinking about parking is something that I always think about. We have parking spots, but I know neighbors that don't, it becomes a big issue. But I would say like we would definitely support that too. I would love to see it mixed use. I would love to see a restaurant there. But knowing kind of where things are at, like that's it's where we're at, and it is a side street. We've got a lot of great restaurants, so appreciate the thought that you guys have put into that.
Well, there's going to be sushi on the corner across the street soon, so you got that to look forward to.
So excited for that. Let's not talk about it.
Okay. But as far as this goes, I love the idea of a mixed use. I just know that now they're kind of pushing against that. I still love the idea of having those 2 front units or whatever, having an option where you could have a live work, or having, you know, if you have a little Pilates studio or something like that, something that's a very light touch,
So Brody,
like low impact. What's that? I'm sorry.
I just want to interrupt because we need to wrap up in a couple minutes.
Oh, sorry.
And
yep.
I just wanted to double check if there's anybody that hasn't had a chance to ask a question or make a comment before we wrap up. Nobody?
I just question whether or not when you went out and reached out to the community, if they wanted something there, because it's a bit of an eyesore and it's been like that for several years.
Yeah, I mean, it's been an eyesore forever.
Density.
Well,
I was tripping over why someone would want density.
Why what? I'm sorry, James, I couldn't hear that. What?
Why someone in the neighborhood would want more. I'm sorry. I hope I'm not breaking up. Why
just a little bit
would want more density?
Yeah.
Why they
I don't
would
necessarily would. He asked.
Okay.
I heard you there, James. And you know, I don't know why some people would or some people wouldn't, but I do know that from this perspective, I think that that a more dense building would just make more sense. I don't mind density personally. I don't love massive density, but I do feel like creating a little bit more density. And I know, Trupti, you said that it doesn't help affordability, but it does, I think, make it so that more people can enter into the neighborhood that wouldn't normally be able to, by creating a little bit more density, a little bit smaller homes. And there are people that need. I'm sorry.
I think she dropped off again.
Yeah, I guess I'm yeah, bad connection. Yeah, you're breaking up, but I guess I'm more intrigued about the fact that I know the city wants density as well. I mean, that's, you know, but they don't want it on here. And maybe this is on the application and I'll look for it, but why did they want TU and not this? So they're basically saying we're limiting this to, you know, a duplex with an ADU or whatever. Why, what was their rationale?
It had to, do you have a map of the blueprint, Denver?
We do not. I wasn't at either one of those meetings. So all I know is I called the planner afterwards because I was curious myself. And he cited just the 2 things. Your neighborhood plan says you have enough mixed use in the neighborhood. And Blueprint Denver Street doesn't match the mixed use. So I kind of discussed, are there some ways that we could get him to support it? And he just kept shaking his head and said, I don't think so. And I said, what if we, you know, had the community on our side and they supported it? And he said, well, that would certainly help. And so that's kind of what prompted this meeting.
I can't imagine, sorry, Trupti, but I can't imagine why the city would not want to allow that here on this particular lot. I feel like TU, just as I keep saying, does not work for this lot. And I feel like maybe it sounds to me like they're just working within too small of a box that can't be opened or looked outside of. I don't know. And Naomi, you might be able to comment on this and help us understand a little bit of where and why and how.
Yeah, it's a strict reading of the applicable plans, basically. It's because when you look at the blueprint Denver, and I can send this to you, Tripti, there's also, I can also put a link to this blueprint Denver map. It shows basically right running down that alley there is the demarcation between low, in, you know, kind of low residential and mixed use. And then in addition, if you look at the current zoning, this PUD kind of bumps out into what is essentially all just TU zoning, like the surrounding neighborhood. And so that's where that would be coming from.
Yeah.
And I think that we feel as if it was worth coming back and getting your reaction and to see if you guys still support what started a couple years ago. And if so, that's kind of one step in a two-step process. And all those things that you just said, we can come back and kind of give our reasons why we are on the edge. We are adjacent to these. We do have support in the neighborhood plan, and just still fight it. We think it's worth continuing the process and see if we can go a little bit further with the city planners.
Definitely. And I'll just comment. So there's our lot, and then the lot directly south, it's actually two lots, and you'll see a kind of a long gray rooftop. That's a 4-unit garage. And if we had it all in this clip, there's actually 4 units there in a brick kind of 4-unit, 2 up, 2 down. And then to the right of it is also 2 units side by side. And they have obviously the same width, but they have a more shallow lot, not as deep. And they're getting 6 units there. And then we look to the left, and I know the slot homes are really frowned upon nowadays, but we have 2 6250 lots on the other side of the alley. One at 4030 Tejon right there. That is a 50 by 125 lot with 6 units. And then just to the south, and you're just seeing kind of the edge of those right there. That is another 50 by 125 lot, 6250 with 5 units. We just felt like we were even doing less density than that side, and kind of finding a middle ground. Like, yes, we're more dense than the TU, but not quite as dense as the other side. And we're kind of creating that smooth flow and transition from the more dense to the less. It's kind of a tough pocket to be in when you're right in the middle of the two. And we felt that the more dense option was definitely the way to go on this particular property.
Jonathan, before we shut down, you look like you've been wanting to say something, so I just want to check in.
Yeah, I don't generally like density as an argument for density, but I think you have a great vision for this piece of property that really fits into a lot of the things that we've talked about for Sunnyside, as far as tying in, like creating a residential to business transition, tying in the streetscape so that it's open and not a giant brick wall, and not a bunch of gas meters. I like the idea that you can put small businesses in there without putting in a McDonald's. The way you've got stuff drawn, I think your height fits in pretty well with the surrounding thing. And I think our next order of business in this meeting is we're talking about an overlay that we've been discussing for a long time for Sunnyside. And what I'm hearing from you is a lot of what I feel like our neighborhood put into that overlay discussion as well. And I'm sort of mystified by the city's reaction to you, but for a guy
so
that
are we.
Thank you. I like what you've put out.
Thank you, Jonathan. I really appreciate that, because we did think long and hard about it. And as I said, I live right across the alley, and it is important what happens there. I wish that the city could see it the way you do. I wish you were the one that we spoke with at the city just a few weeks ago, but that's not the case. And yeah, that's why we're here, hoping that you guys, our neighbors, can give us your input and really show support for this project, because as you know, I'm sure you've walked past it quite a few times or driven past it. You know that it's not what it should be. It doesn't fit anymore.
Thanks, Brody. And thanks to your whole team for presenting tonight. Apologize for the fact that it was such a small group. But if you can decide what materials you're willing to or that you want to share with the committee. What I think, if the sooner you get those over to me, the sooner I'll make a special email out to the committee and get those into their hands, even in the next week or so. So they've got some time to look at it and maybe even make contact with you. And then we'll include those materials when we send out the agenda as well. Assuming next month works for you and your team, we'll plan on next month and hopefully be able to get a much broader perspective from the neighborhood.
Well, if we're going to be on Zoom, I can be anywhere in the world and this will work. So this is great.
Well, we've proven that.
So yeah, we could definitely be there, and we'll get you as much information as we have right now. And if you feel like you take a look and you want me to add more comments to that or anything, then I'm happy to do so. Okay.
Thanks, Brody.
And Naomi, thank you for your input today. I appreciate it.
Yeah, definitely. Do you have a planning board date set? Have you? I know the city's moving a little bit slowly right now.
Yeah, no. We just had, they submitted their application. I think it was in January. I'm not sure when you guys submitted your application. It was quite a ways away. And then the comments just came probably about 3 weeks ago. So we're still in the back and forth. Wow. But we just didn't want to go any further until we got back in front of folks.
Okay, that's very helpful to understand. Thank you.
Yeah, we haven't given up yet. And we do, I think it was you that mentioned that said it's a very literal understanding of the two things. And we do think that there's a way around it.
Thanks.
We hope.
Okay, we're gonna take the last couple of minutes here and just do what will end up being a very quick update on the conservation overlay that we've been working on for several years now. The good news is that we are on the verge of launching a survey and having town hall meetings. The working group that has been engaged with Naomi in trying to wrestle with a final format that we want to bring to the city has narrowed down to 8 primary topics that will be covered in the overlay. And that's where the survey comes in. The survey that Naomi has designed will be really the most crucial piece of the program going forward, because it's really critical for developing credibility and getting feedback from the neighborhood and really determining if what the working group has come up with, whether it's really what the neighborhood wants. So that will be coming out very quickly. Naomi and I were going to go through all the different materials. We really don't have time to do that, but maybe Naomi, you can supplement my comments with some update comments of your own.
That sounds great, Bill. Yeah, we have some town hall dates set. We're just finalizing all of that. We're going to get materials out. We're going to be using a couple of different methods to make sure that the whole neighborhood hears about it. So we're going to be flyering door to door, but we're also going to be sending postcards via mail to any owners of properties where the address doesn't match the property that's owned. So, if you own a property in Sunnyside, but you live in another part of the city or elsewhere, we always want to make sure that the property owners are notified, but also an emphasis on door-to-door flyering for the people who actually live here. And yeah, I'm going to put I guess I could share the landing page.
Sure, go ahead. I think
Are we ready?
We can be a couple minutes over, and it's worth showing everybody.
It is, yes. I do have to take off at 8, but yeah, I can share my screen. So this is the landing page that we've developed. This is going to be the one-stop shop that the flyers and everything's going to point towards. We're going to have an overview up here, big button to take the survey, town hall dates. Once we have town halls, we're going to do 2 in person and 1 virtual. And we'll have at least a recording of the virtual one that we'll post up here after the fact. If anyone needs to watch here to go back through it. Talking about what an overlay is and kind of the refined elements of it. But really the survey is really what walks you through in detail what is in this the overlay. maps, and process and timeline. So hopefully this page will be a way for everyone to know exactly what's happening and when. We'll update it during the whole process about, planning board dates when that's still a ways off, but we'll have everything on here, how to participate, and for questions and contact information, this is my number, take all those calls, as well as contact info for Sunnyside. So there's a little preview.
Yes, and the first 2 town halls will be live. We'll be holding them at Denver Bookbinding, and then we'll have a 3rd town hall that will be virtual for those that were uncomfortable coming live or the timing didn't work out. So during the week of the 26th of July and then the week of the 9th of August is when those dates will be happening. So Jonathan and Brody, this is kind of a custom presentation for the 2 of you. Any questions?
None now. Personally, I just took a photo of what you had up on the page there, and I'm going to take a closer look, and I got links now, so that's great.
Yeah, for sure. And to your question, Jonathan, yes, we're going to make a version that's all in Spanish, as well as a survey that's in Spanish, and all the flyers and mailers are going to be double-sided. And we have an intern this summer. She's great. I will hopefully bring her around and show her off. And she's actually studying at the University of St. Louis, but Madrid program. And so she's a Spanish major, and she's going to be helping us with community outreach and all our Spanish translation. So it's not just me anymore.
Do you need volunteers for that as well? I'm bilingual.
Oh, yeah, any help at all. I
reach
think
out to me.
That would be great. Yeah.
You bring it up, Brody, but we will be reaching out.
I know.
PCD committee.
No, I'm serious.
Thing to say.
and I just hired another assistant, so I might actually have a little extra time on my hands soon.
Oh, well, we may take you we may take you up on that, and I'm not just talking translation. There's going to be a number of areas where we could certainly use the help from the broader PCD community in getting outreach into the area, because
that'd be great.
It's going to really be critical. The amount of feedback and the numbers we're able to build. We've seen that in the overlays that Naomi and Councilman Sandoval have been successful with. That's really a critical issue. So
okay, yeah,
great.
Happy to get involved. I'd love to.
All right. Well, we're only a couple minutes over, so you'll be hearing a lot more about the overlay. And Brody, thank you. And
thank
hopefully
you guys.
Everybody enjoyed the Park Trust. Have a great rest of the week.
You too. Thank you very much, everybody. Have a good one.
Thank you.
See you.